A torpedo fired by a U.S. submarine sank an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka, whose navy said Wednesday it recovered 87 bodies and rescued 32 people. According to Associated Press, the Iranian vessel sunk in the Indian Ocean was the Islamic Republic's prize ship, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said. It was one of the few instances of a submarine sinking a ship since World War II. The sinking of the Iris Dina illustrates a U.S.-Israeli military operation against Iran that is stretching beyond its borders. U.S. President Donald Trump has said one of the key objectives of the war is to wipe out Iran's navy. An American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters, Hegseth said at a Pentagon news briefing. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. After Sri Lanka's navy received a distress signal from the Iris Dina, which had 180 people on board, it sent ships and planes on a rescue mission, the country's foreign minister, Vijitha Harath, told Parliament. But by the time Sri Lanka's navy reached the location, there was no sign of the ship, only some oil patches and life rafts, Navy spokesman Commander Bhadika Sampath said. "We found people floating on the water." A video released by the U.S. Department of Defense on X showed the moment of the torpedo attack. The Iranian ship appears to be hit by an underwater explosion that causes it to break apart, as a large plume of water rises up in the air. The 32 people rescued were admitted to a hospital in Gal, a town on Sri Lanka's southern coast, Sampath said. The bodies recovered were also being brought to land, he said. At the National Hospital in Gal, Iranian sailors' bodies were arriving in trucks and being stored in a makeshift mortuary. The hospital was guarded by Sri Lankan police and naval personnel, as workers unloaded bodies away from view. Dr. Anil Jaisingh, a top health ministry official, said one of those rescued is in critical condition, 7 are receiving emergency treatment and others are being treated for minor injuries. The Iris Dina, one of Iran's newest warships, patrolled in deep water, and was armed with heavy guns, surface-to-air missiles, anti-ship missiles and torpedoes. It carried 1 helicopter. The ship had been sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department in February 2023, along with 8 executives of an Iranian drone manufacturer that supplied weapons to Russia for use against civilian targets in Ukraine. At least 17 Iranian naval vessels have been sunk during the ongoing war, said U.S. Admiral Brad Cooper, who leads the American military's Central Command. Iran launched a new wave of attacks Thursday morning at Israeli and American bases and threatened that the United States would bitterly regret torpedoing the warship.
I'm standing in front of Gaul National Hospital. The 32 sailors aboard Iris Dina warship, Iranian warship, are being treated for their wounds. The Sri Lankan Navy rescued them from southern seas after getting a distress call, and it was reported that 87 sailors are dead in a US submarine attack, and dozens of bodies are being brought and are being stored in a morgue at Gaul National Hospital. Today the security is tight in this area compared to yesterday, and access has been restricted to the media.
Tadi mang ngarep petting.
Israeli Arab Affairs analyst Ehud Yari stated that developments around Iran could be linked to the preparation of the ground for actions by Kurdish militias from northern Iraq. He believes that, in the long term, they could become a factor in internal change in Iran. Commenting on the situation on Channel 12, Yari noted that Tehran has undergone a sharp policy reversal in recent days. He said that Iranian officials had previously signaled their intention not to attack Arab states, not to involve proxy groups, and not to close the Strait of Hormuz. However, this course was subsequently reversed. The analyst also asserts that Iran retains significant missile capabilities and uses them sparingly. He believes that current strikes, including attacks in the Persian Gulf, are limited in nature and aimed more at creating an atmosphere of instability than at large-scale destruction of infrastructure. Yari drew particular attention to the strikes on Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps targets along the Iran-Iraq border. According to him, the actions of the Israeli and American air forces may be aimed at weakening Tehran's position in the border zone and creating conditions for the advancement of Kurdish armed groups operating in northern Iraq. He noted that several such organizations recently announced a merger. Earlier, one of the Kurdish leaders, in an interview with the Maariv podcast, stated that the Ayatollah regime could fall from within and that the Kurds could play a decisive role. He stated that Kurdish forces control the mountainous regions from Kandil deep into eastern Kurdistan and consider themselves among the main opponents of the current Iranian leadership. He also called for political support in the United States, including the promotion of initiatives to protect the Kurdish people, emphasizing the need for international support to achieve these goals. The CIA is working to arm Kurdish forces with the aim of fomenting a popular uprising in Iran, multiple people familiar with the plan told CNN. The Trump administration has been in active discussions with Iranian opposition groups and Kurdish leaders in Iraq about providing them with military support, the sources said. Iranian Kurdish opposition forces have thousands of forces operating along the Iran-Iraq border, primarily in Iraq's Kurdistan region. Several of the groups have released public statements since the beginning of the war, hinting at imminent action and urging Iranian military forces to defect. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been striking Kurdish groups and said on Tuesday that it targeted Kurdish forces with dozens of drones. Also on Tuesday, President Donald Trump spoke with the president of the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan, Mustafa Hidri, according to a senior Iranian Kurdish official. KDPI was one of the groups targeted by the IRGC. Iranian Kurdish opposition forces are expected to take part in a ground operation in western Iran in the coming days, the senior Iranian Kurdish official told CNN. "We believe we have a big chance now," the source said, explaining the timing of the operation. The source added the militias expect U.S. and Israeli support. Trump also called Iraqi Kurdish leaders to discuss the U.S. military operation in Iran and how the U.S. and the Kurds could work together as the mission progresses, two U.S. officials and a third source familiar with the conversation said, as first reported by Axios.